from India are ranked amongst the top 230 in the world for having the most employable graduates. IIT Delhi, IISc Bangalore, IIT Bombay, IIM Ahmedabad, IIT Kharagpur and Amity University.
From the Delhi studios of Republic TV, it's time for Arnab Goswami on the debate.
Arnab Goswami on the debate at 9. Presented by Amity University. Powered by RP Sanjeev Goenka Group. Acco Health Insurance. Century Laminates and PolicyBazaar.com.
Good evening and welcome. The same-sex marriage verdict of the Supreme Court is out, and it is a 3-2 judgment. While the Supreme Court has rejected the right to marry, rejected, and I underline, rejected the right to marry, and said that given the basic separation of powers, this, that is, people from the same sex entering into marriage, is a matter not for the court to decide, but for the parliament to decide. This view comes as a huge surprise to the liberal lobby. The government, through the Solicitor General, has welcomed the verdict of the Supreme Court, saying that it balances the individual's interests with society's interest. The LGBTQ community has in part said that this is a moment of 2 steps forward, even though it's not the biggest victory that they hoped for. And my take, ladies and gentlemen, is that every citizen must have equal rights, including the right to marry. But that legislation must be the voice of Parliament. There has to be a respect to the legislative process, to the electoral mandate, to the role of the elected government of the country. In a democracy, everything can't be decided by the courts. I respect the courts and the Honorable CJI-led bench for its wisdom today, because the courts have taken an intellectual and constitutional position on a matter which is of dear faith. I have fought for gay rights. I have fought for gender rights and its equality, but I think it's time for a public debate, not dissonance on this subject. We cannot at the same time trample over cultural considerations or the voice of Parliament to deliver gay rights in its absolute. There is a process. We cannot undermine that process. We cannot keep attacking the legislative process. We cannot keep questioning the right of the executive. We cannot put every and any subject for the courts to decide on. Tomorrow, will people say the courts should decide what should be the military policy of a country? Will people say that the courts should decide what is the strategic policy or the foreign policy of the country? And I believe tonight that while many may be disheartened, putting the onus on Parliament and the centre, saying they will form a panel on it after the judiciary has pronounced its outlook, is a big step in the right direction, and one in which every pillar of democracy is functioning in unison. Ladies and gentlemen, there are the courts, but there are many pillars on which our society and our social organization operates, ladies and gentlemen. Not even one of them can be put down in favor of the other. And that is why, ladies and gentlemen, debate number 1 tonight is on the Supreme Court putting the onus on Parliament on the same-sex marriage issue, and why the LGBTQ community must understand. And debate number 2 tonight, I've been saying it and I will say it even more strongly today. As Israel prepares for a big counter-offensive, remember, people in India, I shall tell you why this is our war too. This is our war too. It is in our interest that the Hamas is crushed. That's at 10 p.m. And here are the headlines this Tuesday evening on the debate tonight.
of the power of judicial review must be careful not to tread into the legislative domain. It is clarified that this court has not adjudicated upon the validity of any laws other than the SMA, the FMA, the adoption regulations, and the CARA circular.
Same-sex marriage is not legalized. The top court says that the legislature, Parliament, must take a decision on that. The centre is to form a committee to decide on the legality of same-sex marriages. Yet it's a big step forward in LGBTQ rights as the top court observes that queerness is neither an urban nor an elite concept. As Israel continues to hit back hard, the Hamas chief's son is killed in Israeli airstrikes. US President Joe Biden to visit Israel tomorrow and then head to Jordan to hold a very critical meeting.
There is an alert which has been given by, as you can hear, there are explosion which has been underway, and we have been reporting from Kibbutz Peri. As you can see, there are explosion that has been, the rocket that has been fired by the Hamas terrorist.
And fearless reporting by Team Republic from the epicenter of Israel and the Hamas war. Ladies and gentlemen, the Supreme Court judgment on same-sex marriage is a milestone for LGBTQ rights in India. Though same-sex marriage is not yet legalized, the top court has emphasized on the separation of powers and has made it clear that Parliament must decide and legislate on the issue. There is therefore a very long road ahead for LGBTQ rights in India, but this is a step forward. Before we debate, here are the highlights of the Supreme Court's verdict today.
10 days of marathon hearings in Supreme Court.
The first argument is whether or not it is invalid, it goes to even existence, or whether it is only an irregularity or a curable defect. I'll come to that later, but assuming it is the worst.
And now, in a step forward towards LGBTQ rights, Supreme Court has put the onus on Parliament to legislate on the issue.
Whether a change should be brought into the legislative regime of the SMA is for Parliament to determine. Parliament has access to varied sources of information and represents in itself a diversity of viewpoints in the polity. The court, in the exercise of the power of judicial review, must be careful not to tread into the legislative domain. It is clarified that this court has not adjudicated upon the validity of any laws other than the SMA, the FMA, the adoption regulations, and the CARA circular.
There were 4 judgments by the 5-judge bench with a degree of disagreement. But there was unanimity on the issue that queerness is neither an urban or elitist concept.
The discussion in this segment has not scratched the surface of the rich history of the lives of LGBTQ persons in India, which continue into the present. Yet even the limited exploration of the literature and reportage on the subject makes it abundantly clear that homosexuality or queerness is not solely an urban concept, nor is it restricted to the upper classes of privileged communities. Urban centers are themselves geographically and socially divided along the lines of class, religion, and caste, and not all those who live in cities can be termed elite merely by virtue of their residence in cities.
Supreme Court has noted that Centre will form a high-powered panel to examine the rights of the community.
Legal consequences such as succession rights, maintenance, financial benefits such as under the Income Tax Act 1961, rights flowing from employment such as gratuity and family pension and insurance. The report of the committee chaired by the Cabinet Secretary shall be implemented at the administrative level by the Union Government and the governments of the states and the Union Territories.
The balanced judgment of Supreme Court was largely received positively.
First step towards, the right of marriage and equal status and equal citizenship to this beautiful and brave community. And I see this as the first step. At least 2 of the 5 judges have recognized the right of a civil union, which I think means a lot to the whole community. Of course, overall, the community would be disheartened.
The statements that were made, and it again put the onus on the central government and the state government to legislate laws, to get in laws to recognize same-sex relationships. That is the need of the hour, and if there is any state government or a central government person who is working in that favor, I think it will do a great deal of good as well.
If one person adopts a child as a single parent and then enters into a partnership or is already in a partnership, right? Then the other person who does the work of parenting must get the same parental rights, and there is an opportunity here.
Solicitor General Tushar Mehta said that same-sex marriage judgment balances individual interest with society interest, gives an important understanding on the question of separation of powers, and provides insight into the working of Parliament, Executive and Judiciary as per the Constitution. With a step taken towards LGBTQ rights, India has a long way to go before same-sex marriage rights are legalized. Let's debate.
Now, I don't want to be politically correct about this and say, yes, the court did not allow same-sex marriage, but it is a great step forward. I want to be blunt about it. I think the LGBTQ community did not get what they were expecting for. And I think it is important not to clutch at straws, Niharika, and I want to ask you first, Niharika Karanjawala Mishra, lawyer for the petitioners and principal associate at Karanjawala. Also joined by Abhishek Rai and Chaitanya Sharma, the first gay couple to wed in Kolkata. I'm joined by Sonal Giani, LGBTQ activist, very anti-LGBTQ voice, Pramila Nesargi, lawyer, and Hitesh Jain, well-known advocate, who's been working on this from Mumbai. Firstly, Niharika, let's not clutch at straws. I think if the LGBTQ community were to say more openly that they are disappointed, it would be a more honest statement than trying to say, no, I know we didn't get what we want, but we should be happy at this provision of what this judge of this bench, which was in a minority, said. I don't know why since this morning that's been the kind of narrative that's coming out.
No, and I couldn't agree with you more. I think there is a lot of disappointment, but let's not forget the fact that this is a community that has seen a lot of discrimination and has seen a lot of struggle, that just until a few years ago, even the thought of their relationships was considered to be illegal. So they're a very resilient community from that perspective. And what I have seen is, what I believe at least is, it's not just for show or to make a statement to say, oh, okay, well, maybe we got this. There is a genuine sense of resilience of, yes, we're disappointed, quite shattered. We didn't get this from the Supreme Court. However, okay, the fight will continue. The fight now moves into a different domain. It moves to Parliament. It moves to our elected representatives to see if they'll put their money where their mouth is and actually step up and give us these rights as their electorate. So while I totally agree with you that a more disappointed,
I mean, let's not try to make the LGBTQ community too hopeful about that. No. One second. Let's not try and infuse hope into the LGBTQ community falsely. Because we have seen that in this country, even something much more innocuous like the Women's Reservation Bill has been put in the cold storage for more than 20 years.
Oh, yes. Right? And I think, I totally agree
and that has required the political will of a Narendra Modi government to initiate. No. I don't think politicians have the guts, courage or keenness.
Of any political party.
No political party will go against the grain by actually legalizing LGBTQ marriages. No political party will put in its manifesto that if it comes to power, I'm just being realistic out here, Hitesh. Pramila, am I right? Am I being realistic here, Pramila and Sonal? I believe no political party will put in its manifesto that it wants same-sex marriage. Nobody will. So basically, I think the Supreme Court has put it back to the politicians, knowing fully well the politicians won't do anything. What are you concerned with?
Is whether politicians do or not. Now the Supreme Court, you say this subject is in the concurrent list. Any party whichever is in the power in the opposition need not be Narendra Modi. Why should they not introduce? They can do it. Why they are not coming forward? No political party. For that matter, each individual in this country, every citizen has got fundamental rights. Now the Supreme Court has said marriage is not a fundamental right. Well, forget about it. It applies equally to all citizens. None of them claim that we have a fundamental right. Now, there can be equality between equals. Now you have to consider what is equality. Now you are thinking of a marriage. See, when we think of the marriage, we think of void marriage, we think of voidable marriage, and then when we go to court, we also file a case for nullity when there is no consummation of marriage. Now, do you think there is consummation between the same sex? If you say there is consummation, then we'll think of it. There is no consummation of marriage. They live together as two different individuals. So they have a different rights. Every citizen has a right. So it is for the government or for the parliament to decide who they are. They have to define them, what their rights are. If they have a right to live together, how their rights are recognized, what are the rights that they could be given. If they want to separate, under what circumstance they can be separated. Whether they have any other individual rights, house accommodation or any other accommodation. What are the things they learn? It is for the committee which is coming to force. They have to decide. Then we'll apply our mind until whether these people can be called as normal human beings or separate. If they are
firstly, you should not keep referring to them as these people.
Treatment,
I think that's a very, I think it's a very unnecessary. Constantly, Pramilaji, you keep referring to them as these people. Kindly don't do that. But I want to ask here, please, Abhishek and Chaitanya and Sonal, so I place it before everyone. My own view is that the LGBTQ community was not looking at getting things like ration cards and gratuity and sharing of bank accounts. This battle was not about things like that, and you can't give a consolation prize to a community. My view is you rather give nothing at all than turn around and say, will the center please look into whether they can have ration cards or gratuity or whatever. I mean, the sum and substance of it is that. That was not the issue was marriage. Am I wrong here in assessing that way, Chaitanya and Abhishek? The issue was same-sex marriage. The legalization of same-sex marriage. It was not about gratuity and ration cards.
Yes, Arnab, you are absolutely right. The issue was absolutely about legalizing same-sex marriage, and along with that, all the fundamental rights that come along. So that is what we are deprived of, and I don't think there is any other way that we can achieve this apart from giving us these. Like today morning, once the session started, we were all feeling quite hopeful and we were all looking towards like a better future for us. But I guess towards the end of the session, the way the verdict came out, we are pretty much left with the same void that we had started this entire debate all about. So
and since we actually lost the hope from the government, we reached out to Parliament, we reached out to Supreme Court, expecting that this same-sex marriage will be legalized. But I think we are on same place that from where we started. So it was not only about the Marriage Act. We clearly mentioned we are facing challenges in day-to-day work as well, like adoption, maybe bank account, or maybe a healthcare sector. We are facing a lot of challenges.
Come with getting the gay marriage legalized. Okay, and we are the exact amount of the same taxpayers. We are doing everything whatever is required of us as to being like a civilian or a citizen of India. So why would we be deprived of the basic rights that we deserve?
And judges clearly mentioned that everyone have right to unity. And this gay community people or the queer community people have full right to full right to entertain or enjoy the fundamental rights, right? So why still the ball is on government court? Why we are still hoping that one day government will do something which they have never done so far? Well, and they were saying they have given clear guidelines to government to create awareness. But do you think the awareness was created in the last 5 days? It was not done. So we are in same place from where we started.
No, I see. Well, I think one comes back to square one.
If I can add to
and
that,
what I feel is what is not honest today is if there is an Sonal, you know, just to you itself, I'm asking, there is a false sense of hope being given to the LGBTQ community. That there is a sliver of hope in all this. I wish things were to be put more transparently to them. And I think, at least that's my take. What's your take, Sonal?
Yeah.
But you know, at the same time, Sonal, the other contrary argument is that the LGBTQ community cannot expect to change the law at will to suit itself, not thinking about the sentiments of the rest of the population.
Sure. Yes. Yes, of course. So I think definitely, Arnab, that it was of course a very big momentous occasion for us because, you know, getting marriage rights part of just your entire makeup, your entire being, your entire life. And I think people were very excitedly awaiting this judgment, including me, hoping that I could, or, you know, all of us could get married to our partners this year. But the way the judgment has come, what we have essentially got is that, you know, we have to wait till a parliamentary committee sits on it. We don't have a sense of timeline. We don't know who will be representing us. You know, how many years now more do we have to plan our life. So essentially it is a turning point in our life in just entirely planning what life ahead looks like. And, you know, for people who are older, it's even tougher. So yes, I think it would have been better not to give any kind of sliver of hope and being upfront and very clear about, you know, how you want this to sort of be done. It's not like the community hasn't tried at different levels, even through different parties to introduce, but we are not a voter bank, and that's something that a community will go back and learn. And it's a little, it's also disappointing because there were slivers of hope, just like you mentioned that, okay, you know, in the first half we were like, okay, they're recognizing us as individuals, they are talking about, you know, things like civil union, they're talking about adoption. And just to find that in the latter half of the, you know, the judgments coming out to be constantly squashed. Frankly, my emotions were feeling like a table tennis ball, like, you know, going from one place to the another. And this is the feeling of the community. And I think people don't realize we are people at the end of the day. Many people have broken down after this judgment because, frankly, it's about your life, right? Like, if this camera closes, our life continues. So, yeah, over to you, Arnab.
Yep. Yeah, no, I wanted to bring in Hitesh's perspective out here. And to this, we must also open up to the view on the other side. I welcome Deepa, Ishwar and Hitesh. Hitesh, to give us the legal perspective. Hitesh, when you're hearing this today, they're human beings too. They're saying we are feeling crushed, we are feeling disappointed, we are feeling broken. Especially older people who are wanting to get married, for them that sliver of hope is gone away. And they're saying that even more cruel is the fact that there is no timeline before us. You know, because obviously no political party, not a single political party in India is saying that it is for same-sex marriage. So it will take generation upon generation upon generation to come even close to building a consensus for this subject. So isn't this terrible? Isn't it cruel, Hitesh? And how can one justify this cruelty?
Arnab, first and foremost, these proceedings were not adversarial proceedings. It was not that the government was for or against the LGBT community. As far as the government is concerned, the government made very clear, had taken a very clear stand before the Supreme Court that they acknowledge the rights that flow to the community as has been recognized by the Supreme Court in the case of Navteej Singh and Nalsa. They acknowledge and recognize the rights. Now the question is, how will the rights flow? Will the rights flow from the court or will the rights flow from the legislature? According to me, Arnab, the petitioners were not guided properly. Someone would have advised them that, you know, you can go to the court, seek couple of declaration that marriage is a fundamental right and seek a striking down of section 4 and then the job will be done. Arnab, this is not easy. People just copy the Western doctrine. They look at the judgments in the America and they feel that blindly the same legislative principles can be applied in India. We have to understand, we have hundreds of personal laws. We have 160 other law acts which are dependent upon the personal laws. There are rights of marriage, there are rights of succession. These are all, so all these rights are there. Now, to expect the judiciary to pass an order encompassing regarding the rights, as a lawyer and in my experience, I thought this was a very impossible task. To give any hopes to this community was cruel, and such hope should not have been given. The correct approach could have been there to build a consensus, to build a debate, to go to the lawmakers, take the issue to the parliament, which is the correct forum. And if you will notice in the words of Justice Chandrachud today, when you deal with the doctrine of separation of powers, there are certain essential functions of one arm of the state.
But why was it not? No, 1 second. 1 second.
Arguments of
a simple question comes to my mind. A simple question comes to my mind. A simple question comes to my mind with the greatest of respect to the courts. If you are saying this is not a matter within the court's domain anyway, which appears to be the core of your argument, what you are trying to say is that this is not a matter for the courts to decide on, and the courts knew about it. But then the courts heard it. The courts prolonged the arguments. Well, why was the matter entertained in the court in the first place?
So, Arnab, this is the
you see, my question is a commonsensical question is, one minute, Hitesh. This question is to you only. But my question is, you see, when people from the LGBTQ community see such prolonged hearings and eminent lawyers give various positions and observations of the court which appear to be leaning on this side and that. I know the observations are not binding and the observations are not ordered, but you see the media begins to headline certain observations of the court, Hitesh. And when people from the LGBT community watch and read these headlines, they feel, oh, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. And at the end of it, what is a downer is the fact that we are told that the matter was never in the court's domain. So I don't understand this, Niharika. If the matter was not for the courts to look at, then why did the courts look at it? If the matter is not within the judicial space, then why encourage the discussion for so long? Pardon me, yeah. The courts have so many things to do.
Arnab,
so many pending proceedings. It was a matter that was in India.
Arnab,
would the Chief Justice of India have constituted a constitutional bench to hear the matter if it was not something that was within the court's domain, saying that it was within out of the court's domain?
Sorry, I'm just losing your audio there, Niharika.
I don't think so. I'm sorry, can you hear me now?
No, but that's what the argument comes down to, no? That it is, yeah, but the argument comes down to that, right, Hitesh, that it is not within the court's domain at all. And the courts come and say that we are not here effectively to subvert the legislative process. But that was not the sense I got listening to what's been going on in the courts for the last few months.
The petitioner had gone to the court.
And years, in fact.
See,
Hitesh.
Arnab, you have to look at the two aspects. You have to also recognize the right of the petitioner to seek an answer from the court. To that extent, the court says, yes, you have a right to approach the court. The second question is, as to can we grant the relief, whether the marriage is fundamental right? There is an authoritative pronouncement from the Supreme Court, unanimous by all the 5 judges, that marriage is not a fundamental right, it is a statutory right. To that extent, the court has given a very clear finding. To the extent whether you can read the same-sex marriage in section 4, the court says, no, we are not going to read. It has to be, if we will be reading, then we will be doing the job of the legislature. Then the question of the rights come, where the court has very clearly observed that it is in the domain of the legislature to grant the rights, because it is not the job of the court to look at the 160 acts and pass the law. The job of passing the law is of the legislature.
No, but what is the central argument right now? I mean, see, I'm trying to look at the case where it stands right. Are we saying that this matter is completely for politicians to decide now? That the BJP Aam Aadmi Party, India Alliance will all have to sit together and say, can LGBTQ members get married? And I challenge you, the fact of the matter is, Deepa, you know, no political party will say in their manifesto or stated policy that we are for same-sex marriage. Is there any political party which does that, Deepa? Is there any political party which is doing it now or will do it even 10 years from now, Deepa,
No.
Pramila? Nobody will do it. Which means the full chapter is closed.
No, no.
Right here, right now, in a way.
Nobody will do it.
And why keep false hope for the LGBTQ community then?
No.
Will anybody do it, Deepa?
Yeah, Arnabji, I
What
just
do you
wanted to say that, listening to my fellow panelists and, and representatives from the community, I want to initially say that if at any point you feel that I'm speaking against or I'm speaking disrespectfully to this community, please forgive me for that, because that's not in my thoughts. I have friends from this community and I really feel the disappointment you are feeling today, because I have been on this side waiting for the Supreme Court verdict on another issue, and I've gone through the same disappointment. I've protested. Having said that, I would also like to put on records that we have no, a phobia or homophobia, or we were totally for decriminalization. We totally hate the set of people who cyberbully these, this community. So we have friends and we spend time with people. But at the same time, marriage, I feel, is something a little too significant a step and a little too quick a step for a nation like India, where, marriage has been a very, I wouldn't say that there are no divorces, that's not what but I would say it's a successful family experiment which has gone on between a man and a woman for years and years. Now, at that particular point, it's considered to be extremely important. It involves a future generation, and there are a lot of questions and still studies.
So I want you to no 1 minute. Don't even make it theoretical. There is a couple here on television. They need to be on air, not me. Can they be put on air exactly where they were? Back to those boxes. I want you to say this to Abhishek and Chaitanya. They are on the program, they are listening to you. They, in their private capacity, have decided to wed. They are staying in Kolkata. I'm sure life is not easy for them, right? They would have taken a decision. Why make this debate theoretical? Tell them why they are not fit to marry. Tell them and let them respond to you, Deepa. Let's not keep the theory out of the debate.
Ignore the studies which are primarily based on...
No, there's no theory. There's very personal.
No, but you cannot take it.
Since you're making a judgment.
The court of the nation cannot take decisions based on personal choices, right? They need to consider what's good for the future. And I'm not saying this is not good for the future, but there needs to be adequate evidence and there needs to be fully answered questions around this topic. And that is where we're still stuck, whether this is the right step or not. At a future point, if we are all convinced that this is, forget all of us, but if the court is convinced that yes,
no, but you can't take a decision for Abhishek. You can't take a decision for these two gentlemen who are in Kolkata. You can't take a decision for them. You seem to be, you and Pramila are giving yourself the right to decide for them.
Supreme Court accepted.
Please respond. Yeah, go on, Chaitanya.
As two consenting adults,
can I have them in the window in the middle responding?
As two consenting adults who have reached up and so nobody needs to be worried about the future of two consenting adults who are actually planning to get married and deciding to live together, because that is what gives them happiness and that is their particular decision. So I don't think there is any theory to back this up. So I absolutely disagree with what she's saying.
So I think it's like same thing that we also said earlier, that's 90% population still going to decide how the 10% population going to live their life. And it's happening right now, it's going to happen in the future as well, what we can see from the verdict. Supreme Court accepted this, that people have right to unity, and they accepted it's not an urban concept. At the same time, they are saying you don't have right to marry. You should have all the fundamental rights, but you don't have the right to marry. And in India, the law is structured in such a way, if you are not legally married, you cannot entertain or you cannot enjoy the other fundamental rights. So, if you ask us,
no, but
like we are socially married, we are not legally married.
Chaitanya,
and what happens
and Abhishek.
in case of medical emergency?
Yes, Pramila.
No. No, marriage has nothing to do with the fundamental right. Everyone, each individual has got a fundamental right. Question is whether their marriage could be registered.
Hitesh and Pravina.
That's the reason why the matter has gone to court.
Right.
So you are asking me why the Supreme Court entertained. Supreme Court entertained to find out whether the right
if there is a medical emergency,
that whether I can marry, whether it can come under fundamental right.
No, the Supreme Court has said
marriage is not a fundamental right. Now I will tell you whether a marriage could be registered. If so, when a marriage could be registered. If a marriage is valid, it can be registered. Now the question is, the definition of marriage says, if marriage is not consummated, it's a ground for divorce. If it is, here is the case, there is no consummation of the marriage, so there is no valid marriage. How you can expect a marriage to be registered?
Cannot be static.
You can only be recognized.
But okay. Now, 1 minute, Pramila ji.
Yeah.
1 minute. Pramila ji. At the same time. Let me argue from the other side right now, Niharika and Sonal, and say that for the LGBTQ community to say that there is, in India, things are not changing is wrong. Because I think, Sonal and Niharika, so many things have happened. Supreme Court has decriminalized gay sex. The Madras High Court has banned medical attempts to cure sexual orientation. LGBTQ persons are allowed to apply for Central Adoption Review Authority. Supreme Court Collegium has openly backed the gay judge, Mr. Saurabh Kripal. So I don't understand why one is not looking at all of these things, which are changes which have happened. And these, what I'm trying to say is, Niharika and Sonal, is that if someone were to say to you that you can't have a change like this, you can't have a 180-degree change overnight. Small steps. Be ready for small steps. Let society change, mindset change, and laws change after that. You can't have laws changing and then mindsets changing.
Supreme Court.
You know?
Arnab, if you will notice,
I agree with what you're saying, Arnab, and I agree that there have been a lot of
suggestion made by the Solicitor General of India that a committee headed by the Cabinet Secretary will be appointed who will look into the different aspects of the rights, and they will come with some solution for the various problems that is being faced by the community. So I think we are making a progress, but there is a method to the madness, and we have to take one step at a time and a step in the right direction.
Madness.
And according to me, and I am stating this most responsibly, Arnab,
I think just you
10 seconds for every speaker,
that
if Supreme Court would have tried to pass any judicial direction, it would have done more harm than good to the LGBT community. If the Supreme Court could have made a judicial intervention and could have passed certain directions, it would have done more harm than good for the LGBT community. It would have created chaos, it would have had unintended consequences, and we would have been again back to square one in the state of absolute confusion and chaos. So what the Supreme Court has done, it has thrown back to the legislature, and when it says that it has thrown back to the legislature, it has thrown back the ball in the court of the public to come debate, build a consensus, and look at the steps that can be taken in the future.
Okay, I take that. Sonal wanted to respond to you at that point. Sonal.
So I think Arnab, I'm in complete agreement with you. I'm actually very proud of how India has actually really proved to be very, very much LGBT friendly and grown to understand the community so much in the past few years. Having said that, but I would also like to say that I think that it's not about the incremental steps or that we don't understand this will take time. It's about the reality that there is a complete ambiguity in your life, and this is the constant, right? You don't know whether you will get married, you don't know if you can ever have a child, you don't know how to have big markers in your life. And the response that you sort of get is just wait. And I have activist friends, and all of them. They are 80 now, they are still waiting. So some way or the other, there is an importance for a timeline, and it should not just be a community that's waiting for, justice to happen. It is all the stakeholders that have to also join hands together and, make it happen. I find it a little amusing that every time it goes back to asking the community that, wait it out, work with the stakeholders. But when does this, kind of come back to a collective responsibility that we as a society must be equal? When are politicians going to actually really believe in, equal rights? It just seems to me a little bit like,
I take that argument.
Yeah.
I take that argument. No, I take that argument and I put that argument to Deepa. I don't want a legal argument to it, but I have a basic central argument to this, Deepa and Hitesh. What is being said is, the community is saying that and I welcome Harish Iyer also, who's joining us, who's the petitioner in this particular case. Harish, hi. So, what the community is saying, and tell me whether I'm reading this correctly, Harish. What the community is saying is that we are not asking for anything apart from what is granted to us in the Constitution, which is Article 14, equality before the law. Article 15, prevention of discrimination on any grounds, right? Place of birth, gender, and that should include sexual orientation as well, because what may have been called gender, during the framing of the Constitution would have to include sexual orientation in 2023. So what the argument being put here is, Hitesh, is that you are not giving me protection of life and personal liberty, Article 21. You're not giving me freedom of expression, Article 19. You're not giving me prohibition from discrimination, Article 15. You're not giving me even equality under the law, Article 14. And the community is asking you today, how can you deny me everything that the Constitution gives me? Hitesh, could you respond to that? I'll have Harish respond to you after that. Hitesh and Harish. Hitesh, then Harish.
I don't think the Supreme Court has said that you're not entitled for Arnab, I don't think the Supreme Court has said you're not entitled for fundamental rights. At the end of the day, as an individual, you are entitled for all the rights under 14, 15, 19 and 21. All the rights have been kept intact. What the question the court has answered, that right to marry is not a fundamental right. And that is a pronouncement of the court after considering all the features. They have considered the entire position of marriage, and they have said that the marriage is something which is a creation of the statute. It is a choice of a person whether to marry or not to marry, and the rights of the marriage, they flow from the statute, and one has to look at the yes, we are sensitive towards every individual, including the LGBT community, but you have to look at the practicalities. The laws of the marriage are not to be looked in the isolation.
What is practicality?
There are issues of succession, there are issues of maintenance, there are issues of all these issues are concerned. So therefore, at the end of the day, we have to make up the mind as to whether we as a country are ready to provide such rights. So I think
Harish,
till the judgment came, it was all about whether you have a fundamental right to marry. And now post the judgment, some of the lawyers for the petitioners who appeared in the court, they said, no, this was not about the fundamental right to marry. And then they are talking in platitudes and rhetorics. That is the problem. I don't think they were advised properly. The matter, according to me, the writing was written on the wall that you are asking something which is within the domain of the legislature. I sympathize with the community. I feel that, certain rights are concerned. Of course, they are entitled for their fundamental rights, but there is a method to seek such rights.
I think.
So you're saying they got their legal strategy wrong. Harish is responding. Harish Iyer, yes, please, go ahead.
I think marriage should not be a heterosexual privilege, but an equal right granted to every individual, regardless of their gender, regardless of their sexual orientation. If the marriage equality verdict didn't give us equal rights, at least it should have segued a pathway for us. It should have created a pathway for us for civil unions. But rather what we got was platitudes, was beautiful English language, beautiful anecdotes and conversations that were happening over there. We didn't even get a pathway. The syntax was beautiful, the language was beautiful, there was no grammatical error, but there was zero pathway to marriage equality or any kind of what is marriage. Marriage is a legal is a legal contract that is given. I mean, if you remove all the other things associated with marriage, it's a legal contract. It's a legal contract for the right to inheritance. It's a legal contract for the right to medical. If one of us get if we are in the hospital bed, the other person will have automatically the right to decide what to do with me. So that right is being given. We are asking for that basic right. There should have been at least some pathway or some direction to a pathway to some sort of legal recognition to our relationship. We would have been happy with that, and we would have built on that after a while, over a period of time. What we are sad about is the fact that we just got English. We got beautiful phrases and beautiful language that was thrown again and again, but we didn't get any substance out of it. We don't want you to feel bad. We don't need people's sympathies. What we need is a pathway to equality, because equality is something that is guaranteed to us. We are equal citizens. We don't want to live on the breadcrumbs that are thrown at us. We don't want, we just want people to realize that every individual in this country should have equal rights. If there are heterosexual people who are marrying, you do not deserve the right to say that homosexual people cannot marry. We are adults. We are consenting adults. Section 377 read down. Section 377 was read down in the Navteej Singh Johar verdict. So we can have sex in private. So you're telling us that you can have sex, but you can never get married to each other. I think that goes against Bharatiya Sanskriti more than anything else.
Yeah, you see, I think the point. I'm glad, Harish, you said it out there. I'm tired of these Lutyens portals trying to portray today as a partial victory. It's not a partial victory. It's a complete defeat for the LGBTQ community. And someone should have the guts to say that, because you're going to have to pick up from where you've lost today and then pick up the fight. But to interpret this as saying partial victory is fundamentally wrong. Fundamentally wrong. Now, you heard that counter argument. Do I have any counter on the other side, Hitesh? You see, they are saying you snatched every hope away from us. And I think Harish is straightforward and brave in saying that it was the verbalization of the intent of the Supreme Court, and the way the Supreme Court, Honorable Supreme Court, looks at the particular matter is of no consequence unless the judgment moves in that direction. Of course, nobody can really, make this court think in one direction. But at the same time, the fundamental argument also Harish has put is society is not ready. Don't push it. Don't push it. People are saying don't push it. Changes are happening. Let us deal with the changes as they happen. You can't do everything in one go. You can't make all the changes in one go. Relax. Let's go a little slow. Let's move one thing at a time. I understand where you're coming from, but it's going to take time. First, change society. Persuade. Go lobby with political parties, Harish. Make them agree with you. Let one political party have the guts to put this in their manifestos. What's your response to that, Harish?
I think we are, the community is, Sonal is, I am, we all are speaking to political parties. We are speaking to individuals over there. The route could be through the parliament, where we discuss with people and we get a thing. But the Solicitor General Tushar Mehta has very clearly stated what the view of he was the one who used the term urban elite. There are queer people everywhere. There are queer people even over here. I can tell you there are queer people in Jodhpur. There are people in villages. There are queer people everywhere. This is neither urban nor it's elite. It's somewhere it's there everywhere. You have heard the stance of the government over there. So the judiciary was our last hope. But now that the ball has been thrown in the parliaments, in the government's this thing, we will speak. We will speak to every political party, every elected official, and Arnab, let me also assure you that we will have conversations with them, and we will not just vote them up. We will vote them down. We will bring them down. If you do not stand up with the LGBTQIA plus community, you don't stand up with the queer community, we will not vote you up. We will also vote you down. And this is something, we might be a minority, but we are a strong minority.
Ritesh, you want to respond to that? Because even Sonal said earlier that the reason
Well,
they
I don't
feel
want to respond
let
to the
down so
rhetorics
far
and
is because they're not a
platitudes.
vote bank.
I am all for the dialogue. Arnab, we are in a democracy. I am all for a dialogue. I am all for a consultation. And if they want to, use their democratic right, they are free to do so. But at the same time, I am trying to tell them that you have to recognize certain ground realities. The problem is they lost the matter in the Supreme Court because their arguments were based on a platitude and rhetorics. And if you will argue on the basis of platitude and rhetorics, you are going to get a platitude and rhetorics. The fact is that one has to understand the whole concept, as I mentioned to you, from the marriage. Say, I will give you one example. You have Parsi law of succession, you have Hindu law of succession, you have Muslim law of succession, you have every personal law has its own laws of succession. Then you have a personal laws of maintenance. How are you going to, by one stroke of a broad brush, going to change everything? You need to have a dialogue. You have to change the laws. You have to reflect. It should reflect the views of the society. So don't try to short circuit. Use your platform.
Well, now you bring a completely different spin,
and the process can be achieved by way of
I would say that since I've run short of time, that I would also appeal to the LGBTQ community in the country to support a uniform civil code. And I would like to tell them it is legally wrong to demand the rights of same-sex marriage but oppose the uniform civil code. The same people who are for LGBTQ rights and LGBTQ marriage are against the uniform civil code, and if same-sex marriages at the heart are the call of uniformity, I don't understand how people who are politically correct say uniform civil code is pro-Hindutva. So we are against uniform civil code, but we want same-sex marriage. These are legal complexities we'll have to look at, but I think it's an interesting debate. I would say, having said that, if the LGBTQ community considers the many strides it has taken, and many of them have started from a position of ground zero, all hope is not lost. I thank you for that debate. Ladies and gentlemen, when I am back on the other side, why I believe the war against the Hamas is our war too. I'll go into details of that when I'm back.
In the global employability rankings by Times Higher Education UK, only the following 6 institutions from India are ranked amongst the top 230 in the world for having the most employable graduates. IIT Delhi, IISc Bangalore, IIT Bombay, IIM Ahmedabad, IIT Kharagpur and Amity University.
From the Delhi studios of Republic TV, it's time for Arnab Goswami on the debate.
Arnab Goswami on the debate at 10. Presented by Berger Easy Clean. Powered by Reva University, Quick Heal Secrite, Green Lamb Laminates, PolicyBazaar.com and Cucina. Co-powered by Mankind Pharma and Nexon EV.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. The situation in the Israel-Hamas war is not a faraway concern for us as Indians. I have been talking about it, and I think it's important to mobilize public opinion in India as well. Because whether the Iran-backed Hezbollah will act on its threat against Israel, and whether Egypt's Sisi's verbal aggression against Netanyahu will be backed by combat action, these are not faraway questions. Everything may change in an instant, ladies and gentlemen. But this is our war too. Hashtag, this is our war too, ladies and gentlemen. Because as some sections of the Muslim world may as well unite to back the Hamas terrorists, the forces against Islamist terror in the world must also unite. Islamist terrorism is the problem here, ladies and gentlemen. Islamist terror is the common enemy. And in a war against Islamist terrorism, India cannot be a mute spectator against these jihadis. India cannot be non-committal. India cannot be hands-off. We need to back Israel. We need to be all in on this. Because we need to defeat Islamist terror at home and around the world. Because religion is no longer a guise and a purpose for perpetuating, justifying and breeding terrorism, ladies and gentlemen. Which is why I'd like to say a few points, and I want to start a debate on this. The first point I want to make is, either there is a quick and complete battle against terrorists and terrorism which eliminates them from their roots, which eliminates them to the point of them never rising again, or we have to be ready for non-stop, long-term bloodletting. Second point, for all the people who are saying we feel bad for the people of Palestine, we feel bad for what they are going through. Well, I feel too. But having said that, the people of Palestine must show the courage and the spine to disown the Hamas. What have the people of Palestine done to disown the Hamas, to uproot the Hamas? How is it not their responsibility? There was a video which went around, in fact, where we saw a professor in America saying that when he saw the violence against the Israeli innocent citizens, he felt exhilarated. An American professor, on seeing women getting raped and children murdered, says he feels exhilarated, and he puts some arguments such as, it was wonderful to see what happened because the balance of power and the use of violence was established. What if a terrorist were to put a gun on that professor's head? Would he say, I feel wonderful that it's not the New York Police Department which is carrying guns, but terrorists who are using guns? Ladies and gentlemen, this is the same Maoist with guns approach that we have seen here in India. I believe people who make such arguments are, I'm sorry to say, intellectual perverts. The other point is that the people of Israel and the government of Israel should look at the human rights of the Hamas people too. And to that I have a simple argument. How can you make the victim of terrorism responsible for upholding the human rights of the terrorists? It makes absolutely zero sense to any logical thinking person. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe that the Hamas and the PFI are very similar, which is why I've been always giving the Indian example. And I've been saying it. Do not think that what is happening in Israel, what the people of Israel have been through, will not happen in India. The moment you go soft, it will. The reality is whether people on political persuasions accept it or not, the Narendra Modi government is extremely hard in its response internally and externally. So we've had relative quietude over the last few years. But believe me, if we go soft for a few months, they're going to come back. The Hamas and the PFI are similar because the Hamas also has this so-called political wing, and then they want to have a military wing, and then they want to have a terrorist wing. That's exactly the way the PFI is operating, which is why I appeal to the Election Commission of India and right-thinking citizens of the country to ensure that the SDPI is not allowed to exist anymore as a political party, because it's nothing but a front of the PFI. The other point is, viewers, as I talk to you about parallels, it is the Hamas which has threatened a complete ground invasion of Israel. Please understand who's the aggressor here. The Hamas says, we'll do a ground invasion, that land is ours, Israel has no right to exist. That was not the point of view of the Palestinian Authority. It's the people of Israel which must question that stance. This is very similar to the view of all these terrorist groups in Pakistan around our border and some sleeper cells within who say, we're going to have a Ghazwa-e-Hind in the country. Similar forces want to have a ground invasion of India. So I'm not really exaggerating here. And finally, I believe the time has come for the Modi government to also declare the Hamas as a terrorist organization. To not declare the Hamas as a terrorist organization is inappropriate for this government. Without further ado, we must take a clear stance on this. Even if some people believe my view is too right of center, it is completely right. Do you agree with me, viewers? Tell me what you think, for I speak my mind, especially on the nation's sharpest opinion. So now, let's debate.
As you can see, there are Merkavas and there are tanks, BMPs, tanks which is being placed here. We are just going in and around to show you the visuals of the Israel Be'eri Kibbutz, the Hamas terrorists who came, they burned many of the houses, and then they were waiting for the people to come out of their house, and they directly had an open fire. So this is the story of the Be'eri where we have been reporting from, but now the entire area is being taken away, has been taken over by the IDF.
This is the bike that we are showing you that has been used by the terrorists of Hamas to unleash terror. This is one of the bikes that they used not only to get into this area, but then to selectively target each area. And this is the house that was targeted by the Hamas terrorists. This still has the magazines, the bullets are still there. There is a helmet of the Hamas terrorists. Everything lying here, which shows that how deadly these terrorists of Hamas were, who were trying to unleash terror on the people of Israel and killed more than 120 of them in this kibbutz Be'eri itself.
We know that we have been reporting from kibbutz, and we will leave from this location, but I'll just ask my video journalist to show you visuals what is the real condition of the kibbutz Be'eri, who's been known as a very worst area hit on October 7, where the Hamas terrorists who came in with the motorbike, they invaded into motorbike, they have destroyed the entire pharmaceutical house, and we can see the condition now. Not only this, they burned many of the houses here, where and now what do you see? There are magazines, there are bullet magazines, as well as the helmet of the Hamas terrorist, and the bullets, as you can see on your screen. So this was used by the Hamas terrorists to kill people, and we know there are more than 120 people have been killed, where many of the people were abducted as well.
We are going to show you the arms and ammunition that these terrorists they have used to unleash terror on the civilians of Hamas. This is the machine gun that these terrorists came with, along with the multiple magazines, two of which are lying here, as you can see. And also they were carrying with them the huge amount of arms and ammunition. Apart with along with the heavy arms and ammunition, they were also carrying these grenades, out of which 3 grenades have been seized live. Many others are here also. So this is the exact storage that they were carrying with them. That includes the machine guns, the grenades, and also the heavy artillery.
So there is an alert. There is an alert which has been given by. As you can hear, there are explosion which is been underway, and we have been reporting from Kibbutz Peri, and there was alert that was given by the forces, and there were some of the explosion that also happened. We'll just move. See, as you can see on the visuals, as you can see, there are explosion that has been the rocket that has been fired by the Hamas terrorist. It has been targeted here at the Kibbutz Peri, as you can see on your screen, where the Hamas terrorists been firing the rockets, which is now been intercepted by Israel. But visuals on your screen, it was target on the same location where we have been reporting. It's a Kibbutz Peri, which is known to be the worst affected from the October 7. Many people were killed, and you can hear there are explosions.
In Israel, there's no Hamas terrorist at the moment, but they are continuously trying. They are trying to infiltrate in order to continue killing more and more. In Gaza, Hamas continuously puts civilians in harm's way deliberately, because they want their civilians to be hurt, because that is what they sickeningly think that will bring them attention.
Hamas terrorists has been using only one strategy, that to hide behind the human. They have been taking a human shield, and which is why Israel is some of the either way they have been toned down, but not going to a complete invasion. But yes, what we see on our screen is a clear message that the areas that were taken by the Hamas terrorists has been occupied by has been taken by Israel, because we saw there are thousands of Merkavas, there are thousands of tanks, small tanks, which is being moved towards the Gaza city, and Israel has made it very much clear the war that has been started by Hamas is going to be ended by Israel.
Sushant, firstly, I want to start with you. Our hashtag is very clear. We are clearly clear where we stand on this. And I have been saying to people across the country that this is your war too. Do not look upon what is happening, what has happened to the people of Israel, and even imagine that this will never happen in India. Because there are forces with similar intent who would like to target India as well. So please do not look at this as something far removed. Remind yourselves rather, every day when you see what Israel is going through, that this is what India can also potentially go through, only on a much larger scale. Right. So having said that, Sushant, do you believe that Israel is deliberately holding back, or is just taking time before a huge offensive? Or do you think this is going to end diplomatically?
So, Arnab, I'm a little surprised that you say that this can also happen here. It's happened here, and it's happened multiple times.
It has been.
It's not something which has not happened out here. And perhaps even as we are speaking, be rest assured that there would be some terrorist groups which would be planning to carry out similar attacks in India somewhere along the line. Whether they are able to do it, not able to do it, that's another matter. Secondly, I believe this is our war because many of these terrorist groups share similar ideologies. Their worldview is similar. Their approach towards non-Muslims is similar. In fact, their approach towards people who don't belong to their own sects is similar. And they have very little tolerance for anybody else, whether it's the ISIS, Al-Qaeda, it's the Taliban, it's Lashkar-e-Taiba, or it's Hamas. It's the same. There's no difference. Their barbarity is the same, their savagery is the same. We've seen this barbarity, for example, in Kaluchak, the cantonment near Jammu, where soldiers and their families were butchered mercilessly. We've seen it in Kashmir. We've seen it elsewhere. So don't, I don't think anybody should think that this is not our war. This is our war. How we participate in it is different. But I think the one way which all civilized countries need to participate in this war is in understanding what you are up against. And that is why I don't agree with the term Islamic terrorism, but I certainly agree with the term Islamist terrorism, because that is an ideologically driven thing, which seeks inspiration, rightly or wrongly, from the religion, but that's not the religion itself, in and of itself. But having clarified that, on the other question which you asked, why is the Israelis, why are they going the way they are going on this particular operation? I think it's a considered option. Look, it's not an easy, it's not like a knife cutting through butter when you're going into an area which is so densely populated and very well built up, with tunnels, with all kinds of other traps, or all kinds of other problems which you will face when you go in. So I think whether they even go in that same manner or they're just blockading it completely, I don't know. Obviously, they're not going to reveal what their plans are going to be. Maybe they want to depopulate large areas and then move in. That was the model which the Pakistanis followed. Incidentally, the Pakistanis were right now showing a lot of support for the people in Gaza. When they went in to clean up, some of their favorite terrorists who had gone rogue, whether it was in Swat or rest of the tribal belt, South Waziristan, North Waziristan, they flattened. The Israelis have still not done it. The Pakistanis flattened, completely bombed the hell out of towns and cities when they went in. And they had pulled out all populations, which ran into many more millions than what the Israelis are planning to do from Gaza. So for the Pakistanis and others of their ilk to do virtue signaling is all very well. But this is what their track record has been. Let me just finish. Why are you getting excited?
There's a lot of support building for Sushant. Waris, today we have given a full hour to this debate. I would like to, I will certainly let you come in. But I want to say right now, Waris, that I would like him to continue and then I will come to you.
Which you extended to
I will give you the same time provided you are patient.
You extend to me
provided you are patient. Right now I want to say that people are supporting Sushant Sareen like hell. All over people are want Sushant to complete his point. Using the hashtag this is our war too. Sushant, please continue.
So, Arnab,
thank you.
Before Mr. Pathan interrupted me, all I was saying is I think the Israelis will do it in a smart way. And I think they should do it in a smart way. There's no point trying to, do chest thumping and go in because they have all the power in the world. Because wars are very uncertain. And I think when you're waging war, when you're pursuing a war, then you should go in very, very deliberately. You should go in with cold calculation. You should try and minimize your own casualties and maximize the casualty of the enemy. That's a no-brainer. And maybe demolish some of the structures that they might have built up, which could hamper your efforts to clean up what is happening out there. So I don't think we need to be in a hurry. And for the last almost 5-6 days, every day, somebody or the other comes in that the Israelis are all set to move in. They've done this, they've done that. But I think the Israelis are going to time their ingress into Gaza on their own way, and maybe they will not even go in. Who knows? Maybe they've thought it through in another way. So I think let's wait and see what their battle plans are going to be.
Absolutely. Viewers, among various reasons why I believe this is our war too, and I think this campaign should be going viral across the country, is the fact that there are groups in India who have this Hamas approach. Only in India they wear a disguise of being activist, or they say we are a social group, or they say we are a political party. Exactly the way in which the Hamas operates, the same ideology was that and is that of the Popular Front of India. And you know how many people, including several on this panel, have been open supporters of the Popular Front of India. Make no mistake, directly or indirectly, they will also support the Hamas. They will also support the Hezbollah. And if they support the Hamas and the Hezbollah, then they presumably also support the Lashkar-e-Toiba.
Arnab, no one is supporting Hezbollah, no one is supporting Hamas.
That's where I...
No one is supporting.
That's where I think...
Okay.
That's where I think we need to fight a common battle against Islamist groups. And raise our voice against these groups.
Don't come,
yes.
don't involve Islamic, don't say that. Islamics, okay? Don't
allow
read
me,
the Nagpur
Arnab,
script. I'm telling you.
I said Islamists, and so did he. He said Islamist groups.
अरे मैं बोलने दो जरा मेरे को बोलने दो
I strongly condemn. You cannot
बोलने दो जरा बोल अरे रुक जाओ
आप बात करो ठीक है वारिस भाई आप बात करो आप बोलो
बोलने दो इसको
The phrase used by Sushant was Islamist, not Islamic. Thank you. Waris wants, may I ask you one question?
मैं बोलता
One. The question is, Waris, just calm down a little bit. You see, the choice here is, the choice here is,
without interrupting me even for a few seconds.
But you can't fight with Sushant like this.
No. Enough of your agenda.
I will let you debate with him, but don't have to make personal comments on Sushant. You are beginning to make personal comments on Sushant, which are not necessary.
Where did I make
No, you can't make personal comments on Sushant.
You can say whatever you want to.
You were making, so I stopped you at that time.
I'm not making any personal comment against Sushant.
Calm down first of all. Please tweet using the hashtag This Is Our War 2. This is our War 2.
That's it. Yes, allow me now.
Yeah, but reduce your BP and please answer while being calm. Thank you very much.
Yes, okay. Since 7th October, Israel has committed mass murder and genocide of more than 2,000 civilians in Gaza and has murdered, slaughtered, committed genocide of more than 1,000 innocent children in Gaza alone. This is act of terror. This is war crime. You cannot do this. There are certain laws in international war. You have flouted all the rules and regulations. You cannot cut their electricity. You cannot cut their fuel. You cannot cut their water. But Israel has gone all along and they have committed these crimes. And I would like Netanyahu to be tried as a war criminal by the international courts of justice. Now again coming to here, what has Syria done? Did Syria provoke Israel? Did Syria provoke Israel? Why did Israel bomb Syria? Hamas is just an intention. Israel wants to create terror. Israel wants to kill the Palestinians. Israel wants to murder them mercilessly. He wants to have supremacy of that area. Otherwise, why does he flout? Yesterday, the United Nations warehouse, aid warehouse was bombarded by Israelis and they have been killed. Israel says within 10 hours, leave this place, go to south. People rush towards south. He bombards them. He kills those innocent people. Why? Why? Because Israel has been ruling. He wants Palestine to be his own. Since last 16 years, Gaza Strip is an open air jail in the world. Why don't you allow them to come out? For independence, India fought against the Britishers. That time, Arnab, did you stood with the Britishers or did you stand with the Indians? Today, there's a time you should stand with the people who are oppressed. Israel is the oppressor.
I am against terrorism.
The Palestinians are the oppressed people. And always believe, you also believe, there is humanity. I stand with Palestine. The entire world stands with Palestine. Israel is a terrorist, everybody is calling them. Even the Jews now in Chicago have taken out a huge rally in support of Palestine. Everywhere in the world, people are supporting. Modi's friend, Mohammed bin Salman, is supporting. Even Indian government, the Minister of External Affairs, said that we are with Palestinians, independence, we stand with them. Our late Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee in 1977, when he was the External Affairs Minister, said clearly that the Israelis occupied these Palestinian land illegally and they must vacate it. Nelson Mandela, Mahatma Gandhi, President Barack Obama, everybody supports Palestine.
Speak in a steady voice, don't shout. I am responding to you.
What is the root cause?
I am responding to you.
We have to stand
I'm
with
responding to you. What is?
Stand with humanity.
I gave you enough time. Now you can't take more time than Sushant.
Egypt, Syria, everywhere. Yes. Okay, now you
please let me respond to you.
This is against
I think this is our war too,
yes.
because we support the humanity. What is, viewers, please decide which side you stand. I want to tell you that there is a forewarning. As Sushil says, Sushant, Saurabh will be there. A forewarning has been given for non-terrorists to evacuate. Okay? What did the Hamas do after Netanyahu's forewarning? They told the people to stay. Okay? So the Israelis gave a 10 hours head up before the retaliation started. What did the Hamas do? They put the women and babies in front. have the courage to say this. You see, this is the way terrorists work.
Hamas has no
And
presence
we
in
are
Syria.
against terrorists. Don't stand with the terrorists.
Why they are
Don't
bombing
justify it,
Damascus?
Saurabh.
Why are they
Saurabh
bombing
is on the
Damascus?
debate, viewers.
There is no
We say
presence
this is
of
our
Hamas
war
in
too.
Syria.
Saurabh is
He
on the
shows
debate.
that he wants to bombard every place and captivate that place, which is illegal against the universal law of war. You cannot stop electricity, you cannot stop fuel. Today, a doctor from Gaza said that in our hospital there is no electricity, there is no water. People will die. And why is the world quiet? Why don't we show that videos? Why don't we share the images of the young boys and children being killed, massacred in the airstrike of Israel?
That you cannot fathom the fact. The truth is that you will not condemn Hamas, which is a terrorist organization, which is working against the Palestinian cause as well. You should have the courage to condemn Hamas. You should condemn Hamas.
We were the first to condemn ISIS Chief Baghdadi.
The issue is not about Israel, Palestine. The issues of terrorism.
You will never condemn Israel.
Are you for terrorism or you are against it?
Because you
have the courage to speak up. Let me say. This is अरे सुनिए तो सही आप सुनिए have the courage to listen to the truth. वारिस साहब सुनिए the truth is that India today, India should be standing with Israel more stridently. I would say Prime Minister Narendra Modi should visit Israel to support the cause of being against terrorism, of being against Hamas terrorists. I would say that India as a preeminent global power should be standing up. We should be standing up for solidarity with Palestinians as well, but not for solidarity with Hamas and terrorists and people who support them. It's a moment for India.
1 minute, please. May I?
Against terrorists.
Nobody supports violence. Nobody supports terrorism.
Today is the time for us as a global leader to stand up and say,
you are mass murdering, committing genocide of children.
We should ban Hamas. We should ban anybody who supports them because they are supporting terrorists. We are not saying that this war is... India is not against the Palestinian cause. India is against terrorism, and we should be against terrorism wherever that happens, because we have been victims of terrorism for many years now.
Saurabh. Yeah, Saurabh, I don't want to live anywhere but in reality. And what is the reality? See, viewers, please don't think I'm hyping this when I'm saying that what has happened to Israel. And I saw that Sushant pulled me up and he said, how can you even say that it would happen? It is happening. It has happened, and I think Sushant is right in chiding me. Because he's totally right in chiding me. Fact of the matter is, the Popular Front of India, which is today a banned organization, which many people in the Indie group used to support, they wanted to establish, Sushil, the rule of Islam by 2047. This was their stated objective.
Absolutely.
That they want to make India a Muslim nation by 2047, and they had plans to obtain weapons, ammunition, arms, and build an army to achieve their target. Right? So I'm saying no. Asif, I'll come to you. Was this or was this not a stated objective of the Popular Front of India? How different is that from Hamas? Yes, please. Even more dangerous. Sushil first and then Asif. Sushil and then Asif on that debate and that example. Sushil.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you, Arnab. PFI had this stated objective, just as Hamas had a stated objective to obliterate Israel and kill every Jew. They were open about it. They didn't make any bones about it. They had put it in their charter. It is still on their website. Those who have any doubts can go on Google it. So Hamas is very clearly committed to destroying Israel and killing Jews. Now what do Israel do? What does the state of Israel do? What do the Jews do? Every nation has a right to self-defense, and this right has been upheld repeatedly. They also have a right to preemptive self-defense. So if today Israel suspects that there is going to be an attack from their northern borders in Lebanon or from their eastern borders in Syria, they have a right to preemptive strikes. This was upheld by United Nations 22 years ago, reiterated in writing. So Israel has a right to self-defense just as India has a right to self-defense. We did cross the border and bomb Balakot. It is a pity that we did this only once, and that too in some kind of a token gesture. We haven't comprehensively dismantled the ability of terror groups in Pakistan. But Israel is committed to wiping out Hamas. It is their stated objective. How they do it is best left to them and their military strategists. When they do it, how they do it, what modus operandi they adopt is completely their prerogative. But since they are committed to safeguarding Israel and safeguarding their citizens from any such future tragedy that has occurred to them on 7th of October, they have a right to pursue it. I've been watching what's happening in Gaza on various channels, predominantly on Republic, but on several other channels, Arnab. I was shocked, though not surprised, that even while the Gazans are lamenting the loss of their home and their dead, not one is uttering the word Hamas. Not one is questioning the attacks of 7th of October that has caused all this misery to them. Because a majority of them elected Hamas to govern them. A majority of them gave them the fighters
that's the point.
to carry out their agenda. A majority of them hid them. A majority of them nursed them. A majority of them funded them. So today, these specious arguments that Hamas has to be distinguished from regular general Palestinians has to be questioned. Today, people have to take responsibility. Israel has a right to defend itself, and those who are questioning that right must first question those who brought this calamity upon the rest of Palestine and of course Israel.
Asif Sohail, right now I want people to vote on this hashtag, this is our war too. Let's have an ongoing online poll on that. Asif Sohail, please come into the debate, but let me tell you one thing. You see, Asif, don't pretend to be blind. The Islamic State admitted to being active, admitted to being having a role in the Coimbatore blast, in the Mangaluru blast, when Republic exposed ISIS hiring groups in Hyderabad. At that point of time, All India Majlis-e-Ittihadul Muslimin called us names, ran to the police station to get the ISIS people released from the jail. And I'm saying we will continue to fight. Last month, NIA arrested key ISIS conspirators after they came from Nairobi to Delhi. Every day, ladies and gentlemen, in the country, there is a plan to infiltrate Islamist, jihadi, terrorism into India. And I'm saying to the people of India, you have a right to be compassionate to everyone, but we do not have a responsibility of allowing people to breed terrorism on our country's soil. So we have a responsibility to uphold law and order. Asif Sohail, please understand, Mohammad Shahnawaz, a key ISIS terrorist who was on the NIA's most wanted list, had a bounty on his head, and 2 others were caught in raids in Delhi. Every day we are fighting against these Islamist jihadi groups who are misusing religion, using the name of a religion to spread violence and terror in India. Okay? So this is our war too. I would request you and Atik to join me. Say this is our war too. When Al-Qaeda supports, what is his name? Gangster Atik Ahmed. Al-Qaeda supports Ashraf and calls them martyrs. Why don't you say, why doesn't the Al-Qaeda keep quiet? This is our war too. People are beginning to become more awakened in this country, Asif Sohail and Atikur. People are expressing, people are supporting Republic. People are saying enough is enough. We cannot treat this situation with kid gloves. We cannot risk what is going to happen in the future of this country. You see what happened to Israel? They went soft in the middle.
जी.
And what happened to them? Right? So we say if Israel has to win this war, it is fighting on behalf of all of us, including you. Including you, Asif, and including Waris. Yes, Asif.
ओके अर्नब, आपने कहा पीएफआई इस्लामिक नेशन बनाने की बात कर रहा है. मैं बोल रहा हूं आपको, ना पीएफआई इस भारत को इस्लामिक नेशन बना सकता है, ना आरएसएस हिंदू राष्ट्र बना सकता है. जब तक भारत के मुसलमान और मैं जिंदा हूं, ये तो हम होने नहीं देंगे. और दूसरी चीज, जब जब दहशतगर्दी होती है तो भारत के मुसलमान बराबर आगे ठहरेंगे इनसे लड़ने के लिए, चाहे कोई भी होने दो, कोई सा भी मुल्क रहने दो. हम अपने भारत की हिफाजत हम करना जानते हैं, बाहर के ताकतों से भी हो या अंदर के जो ताकतें जो मुल्क को खराब करने की कोशिश करें. और रही बात इजराइल की, इजराइल को आप समझने के लिए पहले अपने अंदर इंसानियत को जगाना होगा. ये इंसानियत की लड़ाई है, हक की लड़ाई है. आप एक समझो मत, ये अरबों की लड़ाई नहीं है. 70 साल पहले जय्यद मुजाहिद लोग अपने हक के लिए लड़ रहे हैं. सुनिए, अरे सर मैं सुनिए, आप पहले मेरी बात सुनने दीजिए, आप पहले कंप्लीट करने दीजिए. 70 साल से सर आपको मैं आपकी बात, आप सच्चाई नहीं सुन सकते हो ना.
अगर आप
अरे आप बैठ जाओ खामोश. 70 साल से जय्यद मुजाहिदों ने अपने हक के लिए फलस्तीन में लड़ा है. जय्यद मुजाहिदों ने गाजा के मुसलमानों ने अल-अक्सा के लिए लड़ा है. आखिरी सांस तक इस पूरी दुनिया के मुसलमान अपनी गाजा के लिए ठहरेंगे, क्योंकि हमारा ये कुरान से, हमारा कुरान का रिश्ता है. समझिए, आप ये जमीन का रिश्ता नहीं है. समझिए आप पहले. यू कैन नॉट इंटरफेयर. अर्नब, प्लीज आस्क हिम टू स्टॉप. सच्चाई को दबाने की अगर कोशिश करना पड़ेगा तो आई विल नॉट कंटिन्यू द डिबेट.
नहीं समझ रहे
in anyone's debate. Tell him not to interfere first. आप पहले ने खामोश बिठाइए. मैं आप बकवास सुनने नहीं बैठा आपकी.
ह्यूमैनिटी और टेररिज्म के खिलाफ कर रहे हैं.
नहीं, ओके, सौरभ, मगर
ask him stop. Arnab, with due respect, please tell him to stop.
Right now, 76% of people are supporting me, saying this is our war too. And let me explain to you why more of you should. See, आसिफ जी, आप कुछ भी बोलिए. एक मिनट सौरभ, आप कुछ भी बोलिए, मगर मुझे ताजुब होता है कि आप हमारे कार्यक्रम में आके कहने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि आतंकवाद किसी का हक हो सकता है. आतंकवाद कोई हक नहीं है भाई.
फिनिश इट ऑफ. पहले मेरी बात खत्म करने दो आप. आई अप्रिशिएट दिस इज आवर वॉर टू, जो हैशटैग चला रहे हैं. पहले सुनिए आप, दिस इज आवर वॉर टैग जो आपने हैशटैग चला रहे हैं. अप्रिशिएट. जब ये हैशटैग कब चलता है, जब आप इंसान को इंसान समझो. इंसान को आप जो मजहब के नाम पे मत तोड़ो आप. आज इतना सुनिए, मैं वही बोल रहा हूं ना, दिस इज अवर वॉर टू. अगर हम इंसान हैं तो हमारी भी लड़ाई है. आप समझिए, फलस्तीन में हर दिन बच्चों को मारा जा रहा है, मासूम बच्चों को खत्म किया जा रहा है. ठीक है, आप बोल रहे मैं हमास को सपोर्ट नहीं करता हूं, कंडेम करता हूं. आप भी करो ना. इजराइल जो कर रहा है टेररिस्ट एक्ट है. वो
आप मजहब के नाम पर दंगे को सपोर्ट नहीं कर सकते.
आप करोगे क्या?
औरतों और बच्चों का मारना सपोर्ट नहीं कर सकते.
नहीं बताइए.
आप दहशतगर्दी को, औरतों और बच्चों पर जुल्म को मजहब के नाम पर सपोर्ट नहीं कर सकते.
अरे सर,
आप मजहब की बिना पर इन सब की हिमायत नहीं कर सकते.
मारा जा रहा है उसकी बात करिए आप.
मजहब की बिना पर दहशतगर्दी की हिमायत नहीं हो सकती.
आप एक बच्चे को
मजहब की बिना पर मुल्क नहीं बढ़ सकते.
अरे शर्म करना चाहिए.
मजहब की बिना पर औरतों और बच्चों पे तशद्दुद नहीं हो सकता.
फलस्तीन के
मजहब की बिना पे आप खून के दरिया नहीं बहा सकते.
घरों को तोड़ा जा रहा है.
मजहब की बिना पर आप निहत्तों के ऊपर कत्ल नहीं कर सकते.
सिखाता है कि हमारा
मजहब की बिना पर आप कत्ल गारत नहीं कर सकते.
तो आप कंडेम करो.
मजहब की बिना पे आप नहीं कर सकते ये सब. आप यहूदियों और यहूद और हनूद को और काफिर को मजहब की बिना पे कत्ल नहीं कर सकते. मजहब की बिना पे आप यहूद और हनूद को, काफिर को कत्ल नहीं कर सकते. वो दिन लद गए. वो दिन लग गए जिहाद के, जब हम मजहब की बिना पे यहूद और हनूद को या काफिर को कत्ल करते थे. वो दिन लद गए. वो दिन लद गए जब आप काफिर को, यहूद और हनूद को मजहब की बिना पे कत्ल करते थे.
करने के लिए आप,
हाँ, जब आप नस्ल कुशी करते थे मजहब की बिना पे, जब आप मजहब की बिना पे नस्ल कुशी करते थे वो दिन लग गए।
दिन से
लेने कैसे पड़ जाएंगे?
मारा जा रहा है, दवा
ये बात समझ लीजिए, ये दिमाग में रख लीजिए। मजहब की बिना पे काफिरों की गारत के दिन लग गए।
बेगुनाह मुसलमान
मजहब की बिना पे यहूद और हनूद का कत्ल अब लग गया, हो गया, नहीं हो सकता। आप इंसानियत के नाम पर धब्बा है, आप मजहब के नाम पर धब्बा है।
इंसानियत
आप मजहब के नाम पर धब्बा है, मजहब को दहशतगर्द बनाने पे तुले हुए हैं।
हिपोक्रेट
मजहब में दहशतगर्दी घुसाने
तो देश के नाम पे सबसे बड़ा धब्बा है। तुम देश के नाम पे सबसे बड़ा धब्बा है।
मस्जिद का नाम लेकर,
वारिस पठान, वॉल्यूम डाउन, आई वांट टू स्पीक टू वारिस।
थोड़ा सा
वारिस आप देखिए, वारिस कभी मत भूलिए। एक मिनट सुशील जी, मैं वारिस पठान को कुछ कह रहा हूं। वारिस पठान सुबह शाम और दिन रात अपने आप को हर दिन एक मिनट मेरी बात सुनिए सुशील। वारिस पठान आपसे बात कर रहा हूं।
सुशील पंडित,
वारिस पठान आपसे कुछ कहना चाहता हूं।
देश के नाम
सुबह शाम अपने आप को हमेशा रिमाइंड करिए कि मैं वही आदमी हूं जिसने कहा था, जिसके नेता ने कहा था 15 मिनट के लिए पुलिस को हटा दो, फिर देखो हम उनका क्या करते हैं। देखिए, हिपोक्रेसी मत दिखाइए मुझे, और पहले हिम्मत उठाकर कहिए कि आप बोलिए कश्मीर में पंडितों का जो नरसंहार हुआ था, उस पर क्या कहना है आपको? उस पर क्या कहना है आपको वारिस पठान?
मुझे 60 सेकंड
उस पर क्या कहना है आपका? उस पर क्या कहना है वारिस पठान एंड सुशील? आई वांट 1 वर्सेस 1 आदित्य।
9.5 साल से बीजेपी सरकार सत्ता में है।
यहूद और हनूद के लिए ये मस्जिदों में क्या कहते हैं?
भाग रहे हमारे कश्मीरी पंडित भाई, तो वहां से
इनके पास क्या तजवीज़ है?
मोदी ने हमास का नाम क्यों नहीं लिया?
क्या करते आए हैं यहूद और हनूद के साथ?
क्यों नहीं लिया? ये सुशील पंडित खुद बोल रहा है। अरे
यहूद और हनूद के साथ क्या करते आए हैं?
तुम तो खड़े हो ब्रिटिशरों के साथ, हम तो खड़े हिंदुस्तानियों के साथ। हम तो
Can I get the latest poll number, please, ladies and gentlemen? Can I get the latest poll number on the screen, please, ladies and gentlemen? On this extremely hot debate, on this extremely hot but very relevant debate, I want to tell you, in this democratic debate, 22% of people disagree with me. 78% of people agree with me. 78% of the viewers, 77% now of the viewers of the Republic debate believe that this is our war too. I want that number to be 100%. I'd like to invite two panelists right now, please, ladies and gentlemen. But before that, I'll take a 30-second Securite commercial break. Keep the responses coming. You can vote on republicworld.com. I'm back in a few minutes.
In the global employability rankings by Times Higher Education UK, only the following 6 institutions from India are ranked amongst the top 230 in the world for having the most employable graduates. IIT Delhi, IISc Bangalore, IIT Bombay, IIM Ahmedabad, IIT Kharagpur and Amity University.
I just want the latest poll number, and I am appealing to people not to vote on the basis of religion. There you are. 89% of people are now supporting us. Viewers of Republic, don't vote on the basis of whether you are Hindu or Muslim. Vote on the basis of what is wrong or right. I want to give a logical example. I feel India has a danger of this kind of jihadi terrorism. We are threatened by this jihadi terrorism. Thousands of people have died. Problem is, if we have a soft government or a soft approach, things will get worse. And I want to tell everyone, especially the younger generation, don't take the present last 8-9 years for granted. Especially anyone who is in their 20s today should turn the clock back to what happened in India in the period, say 2000 or 1995 to 2008, 2009, and remember, ask your parents what they went through and what the daily headline was. Don't tell me one second. My question is to Atik.
We have sacrificed
Atik
our lives
versus
for a
Sushant.
great nation, Arnab.
Atikur Rahman.
India was fighting for their freedom and they were standing with the Britishers. The likes of Sushil Pandit were standing with the Britishers. We were standing with our great nation for our independence that time. Now they are standing with Israel. Now they are standing with Israel.
I know where. I know which side the Razakars were on. I know which side the Razakars were on. What side was the Razakar on? Which side did the Razakars take? Acha bolo. What line did the Razakars support, the Indian side or the Pakistani side? Or their side? Which side did the Razakars take?
रजाकार जिनको
नाम बताओ आज मुझे।
वफादार रहेगा यहाँ पे।
रजाकार का क्या पोजीशन था? नहीं चले गए नहीं। What was the position of the Razakars? What was the position of the Razakars? Tell me. इंसाफ अभी चुप कर दिया ना आपको?
चले गए।
इसलिए मेरे साथ आप प्लीज डोंट फाइट विथ मी, मैं ऐसा रिस्पॉन्स करूंगा आप हिल जाओगे। नाउ लिसन टू मी। Whatever. What was the position of Razakars? हर दिन आप सुबह शाम अपने आप को याद दिलाओ Razakars की पोजीशन क्या थी। अभी मत चिल्लाइए without चिल्लाओइंग। अभी यार don't shout यार। 91% of people in the country are with me. Now my question is to Atikur Rahman. Atikur, a very simple question. In the year 2006, Atikur Rahman, just put the hand down, answer the question. In the year 2006, the Kerala government detained 18 Simi terrorists. At that time, you people used to call them activists. 18 Simi terrorists. But they only arrested 5. They let 13 go. Okay. 1 year later, 2 of them who had attended that Simi camp in Kerala were arrested for their role in the Jaipur serial blast. In the Jaipur serial blast, 63 people were killed. Okay. So my question is,
May I come in?
A tough state would have kept all those people in lockup, and could 63 lives have been saved? Could 63 lives have been saved if the government had taken a tougher approach at that time? I'm giving you specific example. That is why I'm asking people in India today, don't forget what used to happen in India in 2006, 2007. When the Congi government was in power. Yes, tell me, could 63 lives have been saved if at that time that government in the state of Kerala said, this is our war too?
Arnab, I could have agreed.
Instead of providing an intellectual cover for terrorism.
I could have agreed with your hashtag, this is our war too. If and only if you must have said that all illegal occupation, maybe that in Israel, on the Palestine or Pakistan on the POK.
Arey Baba, this argument is taken by the Kashmiri terrorists also. They say we are in illegal occupation. Will you support them?
Strongly object.
They also put out an Islamist argument. Will you support them?
Under the
Which side are you on?
Arnab, under the guise
Which
of
side are you on?
Palestine and the Israeli conflict, you are pitting Indians against Indians. Don't do this disservice, Arnab. You
absolute and utter nonsense.
Indians against each other.
I am saying it's right-thinking people in this country who are against terrorism. Are you not against terrorism?
No. And rightly said, I would like to thank Mr. Sushant Sareen.
Sure, I'm sure. I mean, if you say you're not against terrorism, what am I to say?
Between Islamist and Islamism. What you are doing is exactly opposing Mr. Sushant Sareen. You are equating terrorism with all Muslims of India. You are pitting Indians against Indians, sir. And this is not
when we take on the ISIS, we are not taking, when we take on the ISIS, to the contrary, 1 minute. To the contrary, I say that no terrorist group can ever represent a religion. But it is for you to rise above. It is for you to understand the disservice that the Hamas is doing to the Palestinian people. You go and ask whether the Hamas is doing a disservice to the Palestinian people. Why don't you take a position against the Hamas and the tactics of the Hamas and the rapes and the murders and the baby killings of the Hamas?
The Indian army and the Indian government is sufficiently equipped to deal with terrorism. You don't have to hate monger.
I'm sorry, but I would like to ask you, this person Sharik, who was arrested for graffiti in 2020, that said, do not force us to invite the elite and Taliban to deal with the Sanghis and the Manuwadis. 2 years later, this same innocuous man, who you would have said only is carrying out his freedom of expression under Article 19 of the Constitution of India, he carries out a bomb blast at the busiest flyover in Mangaluru. I say, nip it in the bud.
Mr. Sushant
Nip it in the bud. Don't allow the terrorist philosophy to spread.
I do not agree with you.
Same. This is our war too.
I seriously think that you won't agree with this hate-mongering, pitting
Mr. Sareen can
Indians
respond to you.
against Indians.
Yeah, so
Please
Arnab,
understand, take a reasonable position, sir, against terrorism. Sareen can respond.
Yeah, Arnab, so here is the problem with what you are saying. I think everybody would be in favor of taking very, very tough action. But how do you take tough action if the laws do not permit it? And I think one of the problems in how we have fought against terrorism, and where I disagree with what Atikur Rahman is saying, is that it's not just a job for the government and the army and the security agencies to fight terrorism. Terrorism also has to be fought at a community level. Communities have to band together, communities have to ostracize these people, communities have to out these people. When communities try and conflict, so look, there are two issues out here right now. Actually three if you want to really pull it. And I'm talking about the Palestinian issue, right? There is a political issue, which is the Israel versus Palestine issue. There is an issue of one of the most horrific terror attacks which has happened in Israel, and which I do not see sufficient condemnation and abhorrence for that kind of activity from anybody. Everybody says, look, all violence is bad. That's like saying mother's love is always good. But some mothers are really horrible. So, don't talk in generics. Talk about a specific act of terrorism and condemn it. And then there is an issue of the retaliation which is taking place, right? So there are three different issues and it's all being mixed together. Now, as far as the political issue is concerned, I think Mr. Atikur Rahman walks on really very, very sticky ground when he starts talking about, and in a way, I don't know whether he was actually trying to do it or maybe I'm getting that impression, that he conflates the terrorist attack with the political problems out there. And that becomes really problematic because, as you very rightly said, the Pakistanis justify their terrorism on the basis of, that Kashmir is a disputed area. And they justify that terrorism, they justify the massacres that they have carried out, the bomb blasts they have carried out on that basis. Can we give them that kind of a outlet on that? No, we can't. So I think let's not mix up the issues. But I think, Arnab, what is extremely important is that when communities do not take up cudgels against people who use their own religion and their religious texts to justify the acts of terror that they are carrying out, like Hamas is doing, then it becomes really problematic. And the problem has been that most people who are moderate Muslims have never really been able to challenge the fundamentalists the way they need to be challenged. And that is where the problem really starts coming in. And that is why a whole lot of people start getting lumped together with this damn thing.
Yeah, Arnab.
Which is why, and Atikur Rahman, in moments of clarity, takes a very forthright position, and then he just slips out.
Against the Britishers.
And I think that is where there are problems which come in.
What is? Sushant, now it is my turn. Allow me to make my point at least. You have been. Arnab, during the independence struggle, India fought with the Britishers. We all stood with India. The people who were standing with the Britishers even that time, today they are standing with Israel. Palestine is fighting for that freedom. What is wrong if we stand with humanity? If we stand with Palestine, we all have to stand with it. And I tell you, Arnab, जिस तरह हिंदुस्तान ने भगाया था, ये गोरों को इसी को भगाया चोर लुटेरों को.
Waris Pathan, can I ask you a question? Waris, can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question? Allow me to ask you a question? Yeah, let me ask you just one question. So my question is, if you stand with humanity, where were you standing on the 7th of October? Because I didn't see you stand with humanity. I saw you doing equivocation on that day.
One person commits a mistake, You will destroy his entire family. For mistake of one person,
did you, where were you standing with humanity on the 7th?
What wrong did Syria do? Why did you Syria? Why do you kill civilians? There are international
there was one second.
Is Israel not following
there was no bombing on the 7th.
Is he not committing violation of the war rules? Can you stop electricity?
Varis Pathan, you don't answer questions.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Can you stop water? Israel is committing genocide.
You're not answering my question.
At least condemn that.
I think
in Gaza
Baba, you are not answering my question.
Doctors are saying everybody will die.
When we say this is our war too, I mean it is at the end of the day we have to understand that public pressure matters.
Arnab, please let me just say something.
6th October.
Yes.
Turkey
yes.
attacks electricity power plants. When they go and attack
when
power
Israelis they came, they attack more than 150,000.
When they go and attack civilian infrastructure of the Kurds, what happens at that point of time? Why does the cat get Mr. Pathan's tongue? On the 7th of October, the Israelis had not retaliated.
No, I am not getting that.
Mr. Pathan was not standing with humanity on the 7th. He suddenly remembered his humanism on the 8th.
I'm closing this at this point. It's an ongoing debate. I think it is important to take a position on the basis of informed opinion. But I think if we think of what's happening in Israel and don't draw parallels to what could potentially happen in India, then I think we would be living in a bubble. I'll see you tomorrow at 9 o'clock, ladies and gentlemen, with some really great ground reporting that we have from across Israel near the Gaza Strip. Only for tonight. Good night and goodbye.
In the Global Employability Rankings by Times Higher Education UK, only the following 6 institutions from India are ranked amongst the top 230 in the world for having the most employable graduates. IIT Delhi, IISc Bangalore, IIT Bombay, IIM Ahmedabad, IIT Kharagpur and Amity University.